big area that we have to work on is the aerial game. Yeah, you look at probably the South Africans and the way they're kind of hunting collectively together. Like, I just feel that when you're going up for the ball, you just got to have people that in and around the ball, whether that's, want someone that's in front, on the side, or at the back, at some time when you are going through your kicks, because sometimes the hard scraps or the kind of the ricochet off the ball hasn't been going our way through the June series and probably that game on the weekend. So look, if you look at the South Africans, and we'll touch on that coming forward, that if they do not get that aerial game right and getting the people in the right positions, and I think winning that, it's going to be a hard day, because of Grant Williams on the weekend. I think he's probably one of the best box kicking nines in the world. The consistency that he's able to give Colby, Moody, whoever's on that right hand wing, Van der Merwe, whoever's on that wing, they have a genuine chance to get a 50-50 in the air. And so, their numbers, they had 35 kicks on the weekend. We touched on it last week about would they go back to more of a conservative style. Now, I think the field dictated that, but look, I think if the way that they did play and the success they did have, and the way that the All Blacks are struggling aerially, I think it's one area that the All Blacks are going to have to really, really nail down and try and get better than they were on the weekend.
Can we use it more like I understand the aerial struggles when the opposition's kicking to us, because if you actually look at it, Australia got a lot of pay out of the contestable kicks and put the back three of South Africa under pressure throughout the game. So my question to you, Bryn, is can we use the box kick or contestable kick more to put that pressure back on opposition? Because it feels like when we do contestable kicks, we're not necessarily getting in the air to compete, or we're not doing it as much. We look to go through the hands probably a little bit more than these other sides.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the kick as well, Jip. And I think if you look at probably the selection of a Kyle Preston, who probably, not too sure with how Cortez Ratima is looking. It looks like he had a bit of an injury on the weekend. Like, we just haven't been able to get up in the air. Like you said, the contestable it's named contestable for a reason. Because if you look at the South Africans, if you even look at the Wallabies on the weekend, Jorgensen and the likes have been able to get up for the ball. So, I think if we do go back to it, and I think we probably will, considering that coming to Eden Park, it could be a bit dewy, a little bit wet. So the contestable game is going to be really good. So I think maybe next question that we do ask Ross is who do we think is going to be the 9 if there are injuries? I thought Finlay Christie actually came on and played really well in terms of what his competitiveness and what he can do, and showed a good array of kicks at time. But yeah, I think it's definitely something that I think we're going to have to go to, because the conditions I think that we're going to face back home in New Zealand and what we did see in Argentina, there was a trend for us to be able to run the ball a lot more. And I think, we were down to yellow cards, and the attacking side, we weren't able to get what we wanted because we didn't have 15 men on the field for the majority of that game with the 3 yellow cards. But yeah, I think if we are going to go to that contestable game, whether it's off 9, whether it's off 10, we've seen in the past Bowden Barrett and Damien McKenzie kicking those contestables across field like what Pollard does. So yeah, I think it's one area that we will have to do, especially with the line speed that's coming from the Springboks and how high of a line speed they have.
When it comes to adapting to chasing these high balls, have we just not got out of the escort era well? Is that the problem here? We were so used to it that it became a completely different scenario, and we haven't adapted the way that other teams have adapted out of that escort era.
No, well, that's what I think I was trying to say, is I think everyone's struggling in the aerial game in terms of when they're receiving it.
Yeah.
But what we haven't seemed to use it as much in a contestable sense. We're still using the theoretical contestable kick, but as Bryn said, we're not getting in the contest. And it's sort of just giving teams easy outs. Whereas if you look at both the Wallabies, the Springboks and ourselves, most teams would probably have a 50% strike rate in terms of receiving those contestable kicks. And they're getting shorter and shorter, to the point that, if you looked at the South African Wallaby game, a lot of them bounced. They just let them go, and it was almost luck of the draw. So I think it's a challenging area since the escort rules changed. I think it's almost majority of the advantages in the chasing team or the kicking team, because they've got the momentum running onto the ball. I mean, I don't know, I've never jumped for one, but I'm assuming because you're running forward and you can sort of jump into that momentum, they're sort of got the ability to time it a little bit better than when you're just waiting there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're just waiting there and then you don't have that momentum to jump, so they're always getting out-leaped. So I don't know what the solution is, maybe starting a bit deeper and being able to run into it, but I mean, that could end in tears as well in terms of mid-air collisions. And that's what I'm thinking, can we use it more? You're not going to be able to nail it when you're receiving it like that. I think it's kind of impossible, especially with Grant Williams and even Nick White to that point in terms of their box kicking game. But yeah, I just think maybe it's something we need to look at, utilising, because we've still got the athletes that can get in the air. We just, I just haven't seen us use it as much. Like, what was it, 35 from South Africa and 28? And like the kick meters are 586 and 700, like it's not a lot, it's not big distance. So the majority of those are just in the sky.
Throwing it up.
And when you look at the comparison of our kick stats, they don't mimic that same picture.
We showed that probably in the first test match against the French, like Cam Roygaard. Look at the difference of like Cam Roygaard and his boot. He can put snow on it in terms of the distance, a 20, 25, 28 metre kick, but how high he gets the ball, it actually gave the guys good opportunities to be able to do it. And if we don't feel like we want to do it from 9, we can still do it from 10. Like you see Pollard and his ability to be able to kick it from 10, that open side contestable is a really good way to be able to try and be able to get the ball back. So whether they marry up both the box kick or off 10 and being able to get it in the wider channels, I just think I think with what's coming in terms of how the South Africans defend, we've got to be able to have a contestable and also the attacking kicking games, which we saw probably in the last test match with Bowden Barrett putting them in behind as well.
Brent, just going back to what you're talking about with the Springboks and the box kicking, one of the things that they've really innovated with, and I don't know if it's just this year, but I've noticed this year, the way that they're box kicking short and they're sending Etzebeth and Snyman up to chase. That's different. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a structure that they are using, and it's a really smart way to do it, because look, if you get your kick right and those loose forwards or those locks actually don't have to run that fast to be able to get up to the ball, because the kicks are so spot on. So yeah, it's a great way to have it. In the past, probably in teams that I've been, you've had the midfielder has been one, or the loose forward has been able to be on the open side. You have the winger towards the touchline, and you're having two guys that are going for the ball depending on where it does go. So yeah, it's a really good ploy because you've got two guys that are going for the ball. But first and foremost, it just comes with the kick, Ross. Like Grant Williams at the moment, he's just getting really good pay in terms of being able to get his execution of his kick right. So yeah, like I said, the All Blacks are really going to have to be able to get a good plan in place to be able to nullify both of those guys that are going to be going for the ball.
With the 9 though, the top 3 9s in the squad are all injured right now. What are our options from here?
Well, I don't know where the Cam Roygaard one's at.
Yeah.
So I think like that will become clear, and having the week break maybe gives him chance. We obviously haven't heard how bad Cortez is, so there's still a lot up in the air. I mean, Bryn's still pretty fit. He's in training, Saw Nuggy in the All Blacks environment throughout the French series. I am tongue-in-cheek there, but there is the Matt Todd theory, that where Steve sort of ushered him in when there was a number of injuries. Xavier Rowe was big in the Shield Challenge. You got Mitch Drummond, who's previously represented the All Blacks. So there's still some options that are, I suppose, in and around. But it would be big Springboks and 2 debutants, basically. It would be if those other guys are out.
You can't drop the Aaron Smith thing, not further elaborate. So, I mean, considering he is definitely a Japan player and he's not contracted here, I presume there would be some hoops if they so decided that Xavier Rowe, whoever else there wasn't the person to come in, and they wanted to bring Aaron Smith because he'd been in camp and is a legend of the game.
I was joking.
But there would be hoops to jump through, right? You couldn't.
Yeah, well, I can't quite remember the situation of Matt Todd.
Yeah.
But he was playing in Japan, and I think he joined them on the India tour.
Yeah.
When there was they were littered with injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty deep. If you're losing 3 or 4 of your frontline players, it's, you're putting that depth under pressure. And I always just think, you don't want to set guys up to fail. Like, you want to create an environment where they're stepping in and they're able to take the opportunity. In all seriousness, Bryn, that was quite a performance from Finlay.
Mate, I was really impressed with him. Like, the things that we see that I love seeing with Finlay is he's a competitor. Like, any scraps around the ball, his physicality around the breakdown, he got a couple of turnovers, his distribution game, his kicking, he was able to execute some really good kicks, whether it was long or contestable. So, look, I think if Cortez is our team, I feel pretty confident that Finlay Christie, with his performance on the weekend and the experience that he does have, will be very good for the Springboks. I guess it's just more so who they are going to pick for that second game. Because, look, if you do look at, Hotham, Ratima and Roygaard, if they are out, then a Kyle Preston is coming in to be able to come off the bench for Finlay Christie. So, like to think that hopefully Cortez's injury isn't too serious, but I kind of did see it throughout the duration of the match. He was kind of going to his chest or his sternum, so hopefully it's a sternum jip. If it's a pec area, that's probably a little bit longer out. So, yeah, I guess that medical staff for the All Blacks are going to be doing a lot of work in and around the nines at the moment. And hopefully one of those three that were selected originally can be back for that South African test match with Finlay Christie.
Brenton, sorry to keep bombarding you with kick questions, but the manipulation, like I know the quick tap from Nick White for the first Wallabies try, but then O'Connor's, it seems like because of that rush D and the South African wingers are in that defensive line, there is so much opportunity for the All Blacks to look at that backfield and be able to manipulate it. You know, they were fortunate with Jorgensen's try and the bounce of the ball, but man, they created a lot through the boot, Australia.
I definitely think so. Look, we've touched on a lot, Jip, around the line speed pressure that the Boks have done for a long time. So the attacking kicks and seeing that space, and even the attacking kick out wide to be able to get it to the winger on the edge is going to be really important. But I think what I did enjoy in the last test match, Jip, in which we saw with Beauden Barrett, they were able to try to find that space. And so I guess they have previewed that with the Argentinians, and there'll be something they'll be previewing with the South Africans, because I think there is going to be space there. Now, the important thing in and around that is collectively is in the outsides, whether you're a centre, a winger, a loose forward, or if you're a hooker on the edge, whoever it may be, you've got to be able to try and give that information into the drivers. So whether that's a 10, Beauden Barrett, or Geordie Barrett, who's that second pivot and seeing that space, I think there's just a lot of ways to be able to try to nail that kick. So I think if there is a space there, you've got to be able to communicate that in. So hopefully through the preparation through the week, the analysis, they'll see that Colby might be coming high. There might be the fullback that's not there for two phases in the first, maybe first 2 or 3 phases in the attack when they are attacking, and they've been able to try and do it from there. But I guess I have seen a lot in probably the last 12 months that we have tried to use our kicking attacking kicks, whether it's through the middle of the field, cross-field kicks, or even some examples that Beauden Barrett was coming back on a cut ball and then trying to be able to do a very similar kick to what James O'Connor did. So yeah, I think it's going to have to be one area they're going to have to be able to do, Jip, because if they can't get the ball to the space with just being able to go through the hands and the skill set, then you've got to be able to try to find other ways through the boot of multiple players in that back line.